What's happening, everybody? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast to provide you with my UFC Fight Night picks. Derek Lewis versus Alexei Oleinik in the main event of this one. But first, we have to recap last night's Bellator MMA action. Michael Chandler with a massive win over former UFC, former WEC lightweight champion Benson Henderson. This was the second time that both Michael Chandler and Benson Henderson had fought one another. And Michael Chandler put the exclamation point on any debate from the first fight. The first fight was very close, very contested by all MMA media outlets, all MMA journalists out there. They said that was a very close fight. Well, there was no need to debate this one. Michael Chandler, a quick first-round knockout victory over Benson Henderson. It was the first time that Henderson had been finished in 6 years. So for Michael Chandler to get this big of a win in what is his final Bellator bout on his contract before he heads into this free agency period. Now with this win for Chandler, he does head to this free agency period, and he is looking at all options possible. UFC, Bellator, ONE FC, Professional Fighters League. I would imagine that Michael Chandler will be in hot demand, a 3-time Bellator champion, and a top 10 lightweight for probably about the last decade. For me, obviously, if Michael Chandler went to the UFC, I see a lot of really nice matchups for him inside the UFC. Obviously, Justin Gaethje would be a fun fight, but rather than rushing Michael Chandler into his UFC debut, I think he should fight maybe a raging Ally Quinta, maybe a Paul Felder. I think those fights would be very fun fights for Michael Chandler. Bigger and better things for Michael Chandler. He's been fighting under the, I would say, dimmer lights of Bellator MMA than that of the UFC. The UFC is the number one organization in MMA. I definitely feel Bellator has grown leaps and bounds the last 4 or 5 years, but the big matchups, the big fights are in the UFC. That's just the economics of the sport right now. So UFC Fight Night tonight on ESPN+. We got a really solid UFC Fight Night card here, a solid night of UFC action. I'm going to provide you with my main event fight picks. I'm going to go with my main card fight picks, I should say. I'm going to go with Scott Holtzman over Beneil Dariush. I'm going to go with Yana Kunitskaya over Yulia Stoliarenko, and I'm going to go with Maki Pitolo versus Darren Stewart. I'm going to go with Pitolo, and I'm going to go with Chris Weidman over Omari Akhmedov. I know a lot of people will shrug their shoulders at that, or maybe roll their eyes at that due to the fact that Chris Weidman has been on this somewhat downward trajectory. He's lost his last few fights, lost the title to Luke Rockhold in what was his first MMA loss. He has then lost to Yoel Romero, Jacare Souza, Dominic Reyes. So Chris Weidman really needs to get back in the win column, and when you see a fighter that has a 3-4 fight skid, you say to yourself, well, maybe he's due. Maybe he's due for a win. Omari Akhmedov is a very tough fighter, a very game opponent. I'm thinking that it will be a tough fight for Chris Weidman, but I do see Weidman getting the W via USA Wrestling en route to a decision. Main event time, Derek the Black Beast Lewis versus Alexei Oleinik. Quite amazing how long Alexei Oleinik has been a featured fighter inside the world of MMA, inside of the heavyweight division. 20-year career, a 20-year pro that's unprecedented in MMA. This is a real big fight for him. 59 wins, 13 losses on the pro record, including 1 draw for Alexei Oleinik. Derek the Black Beast Lewis looking to get back into the number one contender slot with a win. I'm going with the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. I do think he's got the hammers in his hands to knock out Alexei Oleinik. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. My UFC Fight Night fight picks, Derek Lewis versus Alexei Oleinik.